Shalom lekulam, and welcome to Hebrew Book Review. This is a quick video explaining the difference between Ktiv Chaser and Ktiv Maleh. Welcome to Hebrew Book Review. I'm Sapir, and this is just a quick little video explaining the difference between Ktiv Chaser and Ktiv Maleh, which is something that I mention in each video about whatever book that is that I'm reviewing. I mention whether they use Ktiv Chaser or Ktiv Maleh, and I wanted to explain the difference once in one video so that I didn't have to explain it every single time. So, if you are brand new to Hebrew, you've probably heard that Hebrew is written without vowels, and that probably scares you. But it is true in modern times, and it was true in biblical times. But there is also a system called Nikud that adds vowels. It's a system of dots and dashes that are around the letters that shows what the vowels are and a couple of other pronunciation issues. So we always say that something is written with Nikud or without Nikud. There have also been a handful of spelling changes in modern Hebrew to make it easier to distinguish between words that otherwise would potentially have up to 6 or 7 different pronunciations. And I discuss all of these spelling changes in a video called Reading Without Nikud, which if you are watching this video in January of 2025, you might have to wait a few weeks for that video. So writing that has Nikud comes in two forms. We either say it's Ktiv Maleh or Ktiv Chaser, and these are not words that most Hebrew learners know, and it's not something that I learned until very far into my Hebrew learning. Ktiv Chaser is simply the traditional spelling of the words plus the Nikud. And Ktiv Maleh uses the modern adult spelling, which is a little bit different sometimes, but then it also has Nikud. This is way easier explained with an example. So my favorite example word is the word boker, which means morning. And this is traditionally spelled like this, with a bet, a kof, and a resh. So there's no vav for the O sound in the traditional spelling. It is spelled just bet, kof, resh, and then here are the nikud, with a little dot above and to the left of the bet to represent the O sound. But in modern Hebrew, thanks to these changes that have been made that help out not only the Hebrew learner like myself and like you, but also help out native speakers. When boker is written without nikud, it gets a vav to indicate that there is either an O or an U sound there. And obviously in boker, it's an O sound. So when writing with nikud, we can write it without the vav, which is the traditional way, or we can write it with the vav, which is the modern way. When we write it the traditional way, it's called Ktiv Chaser. And when we write it the modern way, it's called Ktiv Maleh. Chaser means lacking. And so words written this way are lacking all of the vavs and yods that are included in the new modern spelling of the words. And maleh means full. So words written with Ktiv Maleh are full of these extra letters that help us pronounce the words correctly. So why is this even important? I mention it because I find Ktiv Maleh to be really helpful to transitioning to reading without Nikud. So I don't know if you've seen anything like this, but nowadays, when English speaking kids are learning how to read English, they often have exercises that emphasize the shape of the words, right? Some of our letters are tall, some dip below the line, and some are just the short, you know, fit into a short little compact box. And there is a lot of emphasis on recognizing the shapes of the words, and I don't remember doing this as a kid. So I think there must have been some kind of research that showed that this is actually helpful to them learning to read and learning to read more fluidly. So to my mind, when you keep seeing boker written like this instead of being written like this, it will be more familiar when you start reading without Nikud and you see this word. It resembles this Ktiv Maleh version of the word more than the Ktiv Chaser version. So my humble opinion is that Ktiv Maleh is helpful to helping us transition to reading without Nikud. And that's why you'll notice that I mention it in all of my book reviews. I find it helpful, especially if your immediate goal is to transition to Nikudless reading, to maybe focus on some books that use Ktiv Maleh. And this is not to say that books written with Ktiv Chaser are deficient or in any way not valuable. I find that most books that are written for kids by Israeli authors, written in Hebrew for Israeli kids, use Ktiv Chaser because that is the traditional spelling. And I find a lot of value in these books. They help a lot with the culture and just understanding. I find it so helpful to know, to be able to have read the books that Israeli kids read as a kid and that they all know and love. I love it when I read a book to my son and I tell his teacher and he says, "Oh, that book is a classic." It's a book that all Israeli kids know, and now my son knows it too. So Ktiv Maleh and Ktiv Chaser is just one aspect to consider when choosing a book. I also talk about religious content, and you may even wonder, why on earth does she even talk about that? And I do it because there are secular families who it's really important to them that all of their materials are secular. And it's kind of difficult to find secular materials about Hebrew because Hebrew is so tied to Judaism. And so I try to give the most information that I can in a short, concise video about these books that will help you make your decision. And so, like I said, I did just want to explain the difference between Ktiv Chaser and Ktiv Maleh in this one video so that I didn't have to explain it every single time I mention it in my book reviews. So I wish you all happy Hebrewing, and I wish you the best of luck in finding the right materials for you and your family. Lehitraot.